have this idea that the stories we read and hear as children become part of us as we grow up. When I think about the stories Oma tells, which are still a part of me, they're never pessimistic. And I think about that a lot because that time, it must have felt like the world was ending. And I feel that way now a little bit and don't know what to do. But I admire so much what she did.
I was 17 when the war started. We woke up in the morning and we heard all these airplanes over our head, and then we knew something was wrong.
The title really captured it for me, that ignorance is at the heart of any hate-based movement. And that just kind of colored the rest of the piece for me. And despite the horrors that the film presented, I think what was more powerful and what really broke through was the truth of what these people experienced is obviously at the heart of love and that power of connection of people through this shared history of trauma and ultimately bravery and finding a peace with it. But yeah, I thought it was a really, really beautiful piece and quite well done, well constructed.
I thought this one was really smartly done. It's just a great collection of these stories, these lives, these peoples and their struggles, and everything they went through, certainly during the World War II. It's this great collection of all that stuff, all this footage, all these stories, then against the more modern backdrop. And it's the theme of the parallels between Europe in the 40s and today really runs clean through this. They do a good job at tying it all together. It's very cohesive. And it's, for documentaries, especially important, it's edited really well. You do get the feeling of this story. You're in there with it. There's great back and forth between the past and the present. It's just really smartly done. There's a lot of good information in here, and I think it's definitely worth checking out.
Great historical storytelling. The images that they were able to gather were fantastic, and the editor did a terrific job in piecing them together to continue the story. The voice variation of the narration and letting the individuals tell the story was beautifully done, and I liked the variety that brought to the piece. It was an interesting choice to compare now to then and to go back and forth with that. I felt it was a powerful piece and was so well told. Seemed to be carefully organized, and the filmmaker's curiosity comes through this, the whole thing. And I just think it is a beautiful documentary and just well done.
It's a pleasure to watch visually because of the mix of media, the animations and the balance with old footage. The introduction was very intriguing. Hearing how the Jewish orphanage started gave me chills. Just lovely to hear. The story was super emotional, had this youthful edge to it, narrated by the grandchild, and then it also balances the youthful curiosity with its horrific history.
I loved how we got to hear real life stories from people and like them talking about the past. I feel like often when it comes to history, we very rarely hear it orally, but more so like we read it. So it was nice hearing like stories that I've read before, but coming out of people's mouths and like hearing it from a primary source instead of a secondary one, and just hearing these people like actually talk about not only what we've already read, but their own personal experiences. It was very hard though to hear about the Holocaust and like hearing from people who actually survived the Holocaust and who lost family members and loved ones to it. I feel like I learned so much more in this documentary than I learned in like textbooks or like online and stuff like that. And I think it's because it was coming from real life sources. And the ending was just absolutely beautiful to me because I really love the fact that they were able to reunite to people who met so long ago. And yeah, it evoked a lot of emotions in me, and I can tell it evoked a lot of emotions in them as well. So yeah.
Such a beautiful and powerful documentary that covered a vast amount of topics, all very important, all very poignant, all very compelling. The underlying music score was really beautiful and emotional, and I really just loved all of the elements of storytelling in this. There was narration, there was interviews, there were graphics, there was photographs, there was historical footage. There was just a little bit of everything, and I think it all stitched together really beautiful to tell this truly compelling story of family and challenges and fear and connection and rebellion and just all of these different things that make us as humans so fascinating. There was just a bit of everything, and I absolutely loved it. It wasn't too much. It wasn't confusing. It was just right.
A documentary that tells some very harrowing and frankly incredible stories about survivors from Nazi Germany during World War II. I mean, we have stories of people escaping through the thin of their teeth, hiding children right under the noses of high-ranking Nazi officers. And we have reunifications in present day occurring. People who have not seen each other since going through these harrowing experiences together, only now reconnecting and discussing and reflecting on that time in their lives and how it ultimately, of course, shaped who they were, what their ideology became today. And we also have a kind of academic standpoint, too, in this piece, which I thought kept it really well balanced, from the emotional, personal stories to also the kind of historical viewpoints and opinions and facts being given. We have a cautionary tale, of course, against the echoes of fascism that we see still throughout the world today, most notably in the US, but all around the world. And, it's a piece that gives a warning that we've heard before, but we need to continue to hear, which is do not let history repeat itself. And there are echoes of that being a possibility evident in present day. And that's, I think, the most startling takeaway of the piece. Aside from the amazing stories, real life stories that it tells, it's the warnings it gives about what is occurring now and how much that is reflective of the past to an uncomfortable degree.
There are so many disturbing elements at play in how history is written. We have how the fascist regime struck against the Jews in Europe in the 1930s. We have the false case of history lessons. We have recollections, revisitations, the backlash against feminism. All of this is illustrated in very impressive animation that never ceases to bore or lose the audience's attention in any way. But I found what was the most disturbing element of how history is written is the very truthful nature and honest depiction that history has a way of not so much repeating itself, but as it is suggested, of rhyming with itself once again. And we are reminded how the deviant tactics of an authoritarian society can once again manipulate a population, and that is what drives society. And it is how people evolve, not by how they are led, that is what shapes our future. And Marion Alberts does a fabulous job in recollecting the stories of her grandmother Betty's contributions to society, as well as Judith Shia. I'm probably going to butcher the last name, but Judith Shiaviria's how they use tactics to fight against the fascist regimes that were hurting the populations. And that provides, I think, Marion Alberts' attempt was to give this a positive spin, to know that when these forces are working against humanity, there is hope in people like those explored in this film that can benefit society and prove that we can be better when we are not being led and misled by our political generals.